welcome back to the channel. Thanks for watching. Today I'm working on our 2006 Cayman S. This is a 987 generation Cayman, so first generation Cayman, first year of the Cayman S, and first year of the Cayman in the US actually. One problem that it's having now is that it smokes excessively on startup. And I took it to a mechanic to fix some other things on it, and the technician, after they looked at it, and they had diagnosed the smoking problem as bad catalytic converters. And so I went ahead and replaced the catalytic converters myself with MagnaFlow aftermarket cats, and which was not cheap. I mean, it was probably and they were $12.50 for the set, so way cheaper than factory catalytic converters. But that didn't solve the problem. So now the car is still smoking, and I'm going to replace the air oil separator, which is part of the emission system. What that device does is it actually takes excessive blow-by, which is basically oil that gets past the piston rings when the engine is running, and it's supposed to take that excess oil and circulate it back through the engine, basically so that the motor runs cleaner. So it's an emissions device, basically. And what happens though when they go bad is it doesn't recirculate the oil into the engine, and it just dumps it out the exhaust, and then that's why you get the excessive smoking. It also can affect the engine performance, and so it can cause check engine lights. It can mess with all sorts of other components as well. So I'm going to replace the air oil separator and see if that fixes our smoking problem. So first thing you got to do is remove the carpeting to get to the engine. The engine cover, so this just pops out. So the engine cover is removed with a T30 Torx bit. That's a dirty engine bay. So here's the air oil separator. It's the actual Porsche part. It's not an aftermarket one. It was about, I think, $80 on Amazon. Alright, so I got the top hose disconnected, and man, there's a ton of oil in this hose right here, so I'm thinking that's good so far. I didn't break this clip. This was kind of a pain. You got to squeeze it, and honestly, this looks like the factory, possibly the factory part. These are supposed to be replaced every 70,000 miles. This car has 135,000 on it, and I've never done the AOS, obviously, and so if this is the original part, it's likely it's bad. So this is the upper one that I just disconnected, and now I'm going to try to get this one disconnected here. Then there's two hoses on the bottom. Okay, so the mounting bolts for the actual air oil separator is an E10, so an E10 star sockets, basically, is what this is. Alright, so I got the AOS installed. Taking it out was not too difficult. I had to buy some pliers, basically, to make the job easier, and I had actually gotten this from another tutorial on YouTube. So the first pair of pliers that I got were these water pump pliers from Harbor Freight. They were like $15, and this is actually a good tool to have around anyway. They're kind of like normal adjustable pliers, but they have a lock here that will allow you to set the distance here. So I used this to remove the hose clamp, so you should be able to remove with your hand. The top one I could remove with my hand because you squeeze it and pull off. But the bottom one, there's not enough clearance to get your hand down there to pull it off, and so these come in handy, and you can adjust the width so that way you don't crack the little clip that holds it on. So I managed to do it without breaking it, which is good because this is obviously old, dried out plastic, but didn't break anything. The biggest pain is getting the lower hose that goes from the bottom of the AOS into the engine. It's a small hose that's like an L shape, and it's held on with those really stout little wire hose clamps that you have to squeeze to release. And so to get that one off, there's no way you can do that with your hand. So I bought another pair of pliers from Harbor Freight, which are these ones. This is a long, an extended, this is a long reach plier, whatever it's called, and it has a 90-degree bend on the end of it. So that allows you to drop it down into the engine bay to the bottom of the AOS, and then squeeze that clamp and push it down to get it out. And then getting the bolts, there's two bolts that hold on the AOS. Those are not too bad. You need a very long extension, basically, to get down into the bolts. Putting it in took two people. honestly. I mean, I'm sure that an experienced technician could do it by themselves, but getting that bottom hose back on, putting most of the hoses on is not a problem. Like the other ones that you take off with these pliers here, those just pop on. That's not a problem at all. But it's the bottom hose, it's a pain. And so what I had to do was have my brother help me. And then at that point, what we did was we guided the hose. He guided the AOS down into the engine bay, got the hose at least to start onto the pipe where it goes into the engine. And then I took a very long pry bar and we jacked up the car and I got underneath it and I put the pry bar up there way up into the engine bay and I pushed the hose while he was holding it. And both of us, working from both sides, managed to get it to pop on to the pipe because the pipe is about that long and the hose has to really slide onto it. So it's not easy. It's one of those just pain in the butt jobs. It should be a really easy job because the hose is just a couple of hoses, right, and then 2 bolts, but the access is really difficult. This is a 987.1, so it's first gen Cayman. I believe on the later 987.2 Caymans, they moved the AOS closer to the passenger compartment, so you can actually remove the panel behind the seats, and then you can get to the hoses and all that stuff much easier than you can on this earlier design. So definitely, it's just a pain. It's fiddly. It's doable. So anyway, hopefully this video was helpful for you guys if you're tackling this AOS job on your Cayman or your Boxster. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.